This is part 2 of chapter 16, where we're going to look more in depth at somatic sensations. So, somatic sensations arise from stimulation of sensory receptors that are embedded in the skin or subcutaneous layer, in the membranes of the mouth, vagina, anus, in muscles, tendons, and joints, and also in the inner ear. There are 4 modalities of somatic sensations. These are tactile, thermal, pain, and proprioceptive. The tactile sensations, these include things like touch, pressure, vibration, itch, and tickle. Now there are 2 types of touch receptors. First one is going to be rapidly adapting. A rapidly adapting touch receptor. And the second one is going to be a slowly adapting touch receptor. So there are 2 kinds of rapidly adapting touch receptors. These are Meissner's corpuscles, Meissner corpuscles are also called corpuscles of touch, and these are touch receptors that are located in the dermal papillae of hairless skin. So you can actually see them right here. They're labeled here, and you can see them right here in the diagram. And the second type of rapidly adapting touch receptors are hair root plexuses. So these are actually found just in hairy skin. Right here, they detect crude touch. So they're going to be these nerve endings around the hair root. So because they are rapidly adapting receptors, these receptors generate nerve impulses mainly at the onset of touch. There's also 2 types of slowly adapting touch receptors. First one is going to be type 1 cutaneous mechanoreceptors. So these are labeled right here. These are also called tactile discs. These are saucer-shaped, very flattened free nerve endings. They also make contact with Merkel cells, which remember are the tactile epithelial cells of the stratum basale. And these are really abundant in the fingertips, the hands, lips, and also the external genitalia. Now the second type of slowly adapting receptor is going to be the type 2 cutaneous mechanoreceptors. And these are also called Ruffini's corpuscles. So Ruffini's corpuscles, these are going to be right here. These are elongated, encapsulated receptors that are located deep in the dermis and in ligaments and in tendons. They're most sensitive to stretching that occurs as the digits or limbs are moved. Pressure, which is a sustained sensation that's felt over a larger area than touch, this occurs with deformation of deeper tissues. So receptors that contribute to sensations of pressure, these include the corpuscles of touch, the type 1 cutaneous mechanoreceptors, and lamellated corpuscles. So a lamellated corpuscle, also called a Pacinian corpuscle, this is a large oval structure which is composed of many layers of connective tissue that encapsulates and encloses a dendrite. And these actually also adapt relatively rapidly, just like the corpuscles of touch or the Meissner's corpuscles. And lamellated corpuscles are very widely distributed throughout the body. They are found in the dermis, the subcutaneous layer, submucosal layers around joints, tendons, and muscles. Also found in mammary glands, in the urinary bladder, just to name a few places. So these are found kind of everywhere. Lastly, that we'll talk on this slide are going to be thermal receptors. Thermal receptors are free nerve endings that have receptive fields about 1 millimeter in diameter on the skin surface. And there are two types of thermal sensations, cold and warm, and these are detected by different thermal receptors. So we have cold thermal receptors, and warm thermal receptors. And actually, cold thermal receptors are actually a lot more abundant in the body than warm receptors. And they are free nerve endings, so they would present like this one. Pain is so important for survival. It serves as a really important protective function by signaling the presence of noxious or potentially damaging conditions to your body. Nociceptors are the somatic sensory receptors that sense pain, and they are the free nerve endings that are found in every tissue of the body except for the brain. Now there are two types of pain, fast and slow. The perception of fast pain occurs pretty rapidly, usually within 0.1 second after a stimulus is applied. And this is because nerve impulses will propagate along medium diameter myelinated A fibers. Now this type of pain is also defined as acute, which means short duration, also a sharp or prickling pain. The perception of slow pain begins a second or more after stimulus is applied. It gradually then increases in intensity over a period of seconds or minutes. And this pain, which can be excruciating, is also referred to as chronic or long-term, burning, aching, or throbbing pain. And this can occur both in the skin and in deeper tissues or internal organs. Pain that arises from stimulation of receptors in the skin, this is called superficial somatic pain. Stimulation of receptors in skeletal muscles, in joints, tendons, and fascia, this causes deep somatic pain. Visceral pain, this results from stimulation of nociceptors in visceral organs. Now, if stimulation is diffuse or it involves large areas, the visceral pain can actually be very severe. Fast pain is very precisely localized to the stimulated area. However, in many cases of visceral pain, the pain is felt in or just deep to the skin that overlies the stimulated organ, or also can occur in a surface area that's quite far from the stimulated organ. Now, this phenomenon, where we have pain that is felt on the skin or on the surface area that's quite far from the organ that is actually stimulated, this is called referred pain. Now, this figure actually shows the region to which visceral pain may be referred to. In general, the visceral organs involved and the area to which pain is referred to are served by the same segment of the spinal cord. So we have a couple of different locations here that are kind of interesting. So here, the shoulder neck can actually have a referred pain for the liver and the gallbladder. Middle of the back here can have referred pain from the stomach. Lung and diaphragm are kind of interesting as well, having it on the left side of the neck and shoulder. And heart, having pain up by the jaw. So these are kind of interesting areas for referred pain. Proprioceptive sensations, which are also called proprioception, these allow us to recognize the parts of our body that belong to us. They also know where our head and our limbs are located and how they're moving, even if we're not looking at them. This is so that we can talk and walk and type or dress without directly using our eyes. Proprioceptive sensations come from receptors that are called proprioceptors. Those proprioceptors that are embedded in muscles and tendons inform us which muscles are contracted and the amount of tension that the tendons are holding. Proprioceptors also allow us weight discrimination. So this is actually the ability to assess the weight of an object. So holding a glass of water in your hand or a heavy textbook, proprioceptors actually allow us to kind of discriminate the weights of different objects that we're holding. So this type of information actually allows us to determine how much effort our muscles need to exert in order to perform a certain task. There are two types of proprioceptors. These are muscle spindles and tendon organs. Muscle spindles are the proprioceptors in skeletal muscle that monitor changes in the length of skeletal muscles, and they also participate in stretch reflexes. By adjusting how vigorously a muscle spindle responds to the stretching of a skeletal muscle, the brain sets an overall level of muscle tone, and this is the small degree of contraction that's present when the muscle's at rest, remember. Tendon organs, these are located at the junction of a tendon and a muscle, and these protect tendons and their associated muscles from damage due to excessive tension. These are the two types of proprioceptors in the body. There are several types of joint kinesthetic receptors that are present within and around the articular capsules of synovial joints. Free nerve endings and type 2 cutaneous mechanoreceptors in the capsules of joints also respond to pressure. Each muscle spindle consists of several slowly adapting sensory nerve endings that will wrap around 3 to 10 specialized internal muscle fibers, which are called intrafusal muscle fibers. So here inside you can see these intrafusal muscle fibers go lengthwise here like this, and then we have these sensory nerve endings. You can see here that are actually wrapped around those intrafusal muscle fibers. And the muscle spindle is this entire capsule here, this whole thing. The main function of muscle spindles is to really measure the muscle length. In muscle spindles, again, which monitor those changes in the length of the muscle, the sensory nerve endings will wrap around the central portion of the intrafusal muscle fibers, like I said here, and then we also have those motor nerve endings here as well that will also attach to those intrafusal muscle fibers. In tendon organs, which are going to be down here, these monitor the force of muscle contraction. And we have sensory nerve endings that are going to be here inside there that are activated by increasing the tension on a tendon. So each type of receptor, tactile, thermoreceptor, pain receptor, and proprioceptor is listed here. So it says kind of where the receptor type here, the structure and location, the sensation, and then also the rate at which they adapt, whether they have a rapid or slow adaptation rate. So we've kind of gone over all of these individually, but this is a nice table that kind of summarizes everything if you want to look at that and kind of test your knowledge on what we've already talked about. And that's going to be the end of Chapter 16, Part 2.